meeting to order.
We're going to do a public hearing first.
Oh, yes, sorry. For a public hearing on the middle school boiler replacement project. Does anybody have anything to say, questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move to roll call.
Hauser.
Here.
Kent.
Here.
Mead. Here. Mankey.
Here.
Ben Reiswijk.
Here.
Williams. Young.
Here.
Do you have a quorum?
Thank you.
I'd move to approve the agenda.
Many people second.
Mankey.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, the district mission is to teach all, reach all. Our vision is Urbandale will be a school district that brings learning to life for everyone. And the board mission is to partner with stakeholders to teach all and reach all through governance of board policy and operating protocol. And Jared is up first. Our activities
I
up.
remember Jared's gonna probably run out of here. I'm sure he'll wait until we cover why these gentlemen are here. But,
You want me to start with this or with this?
well, why don't we start with this, because I know these guys are excited.
I brought a few friends with me tonight. In case you didn't hear, our soccer team won the state championship on Friday. So I want Coach Mullins, you can come on up.
And this has not been done since 2002, and none of
2002.
you were born when that happened. So that's a pretty big feat that I am very proud of you as a superintendent. And I will apologize that I was not able to make it to games. I had a family emergency last week, but that was my intention. So you have to do this again next year so that I can see this.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal. I wanted to say, well, here's, thank you for all the support, you know. These guys all understand that we couldn't have done what we did without on our own. The community, it was very we blew it away as far as fans and support. It was very tremendous. So we're very fortunate, and thank you, everybody. Yeah. I was gonna look for the camera.
It's on the TV.
I think one thing that needs to be said too is because I've already heard it, and people are trying to downplay the state title by saying, oh, they were in 3A, of course they should win the state title. If you look at the state championship for the 4A game, it was Valley and Johnston. Our boys beat Johnston. They lost to Valley 1-0. So like, this is a good team. This is a well-coached team. This is a team that could have competed in any class this year. So if you hear people out in the community saying things like that, please shut it down, because this is just a really good team, and they did a nice job this year and competed all the way to the end. So we're really proud of them.
I did get to see you guys play on that really, really hot Saturday that happened, and I was impressed myself. You made a game I don't know a lot about very exciting.
We tend to do that. Too exciting sometimes.
So that's a pretty big trophy. I think we can get a picture of all of you guys under the Urbandale U. I know you've been photo-opped quite a bit, but what's a few more? And we do plan to bring them officially back in August so that we can formally recognize them. We didn't want this to go by the wayside. They're organizing themselves. Making your job easy.
They've done this a few times.
You guys have done this a few times. Okay, here we go. Ready? Congratulations.
I'd also like to point out tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at Frericks Field, we'll be doing a celebration for the team, open to the public. We'll have speeches and some refreshments and just kind of get together to have some fun and celebrate the state championship. So I hope to see everybody there. Thank you guys. Thanks.
Congratulations.
Feel free to stay for the meeting if you want.
Like the Stanley Cup.
Nobody wants to stay for the meeting. not top that.
I think I can. Alright, so activities update. This will cover winter and spring sports. Obviously, spring sports just concluded. And now we're into the summer. There'll be a little bit of a summer preview there, kind of catch you up with where they're at. First off though, our athletics and activities office. So we've gone through a pretty big shakeup this year. Everybody you see on the screen was not here to start the year, so I want to bring Connor up real quick. This is Connor LaGrone. He's currently the assistant at DCG, so he'll be the assistant director here at Urbandale starting July 1. So we've been working with him a little bit already, and excited for him to get started full time. So.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you could be here tonight.
Alright, and then Stacy John, she's another new hire. She started back in April, right in the thick of the track season. So a lot of you, I think, have met Stacy already. She used to work at the middle school, and she's been a really great addition to our team as well. So let's get started. I'm gonna try to keep each one of these short and sweet. I'm not gonna read everything off the screen to you, but performing arts review, starting with vocal music. They wrapped up auditions for show choir for next year. They're getting ready to start camp preparations, so they can get ready for the new school year. Had our kind of typical slate of concerts, the Pops concerts, and then show choir went on their usual excursions in and out of state and won lots of awards this year. They're really fun to watch if you haven't ever seen them. Biggest thing here, new directors for next year with Ted and John leaving. We've got Adam Brown coming in as the new director, and then Rachel Schraubelgen coming in as the assistant director. Adam's currently up in Ankeny, and Rachel's coming to us from Wisconsin. So we're excited to have two really high-level replacements on deck for show choir. Mamma Mia, they got done with their show, I think it was late April. They won a lot of awards. I'm not going to read every single one of those awards off, but they did really well. They had judges come in to 3 of the performances and give reviews, and that's how the awards were determined. So they did really well there. And then they're getting ready for the fall play, Servant of Two Masters. Instrumental music, 33rd consecutive Division I rating at state. The Perry Band Olympics, you can see the giant list of kids that did really well at the Perry Band Olympics. And then they went to South Dakota for a jazz trip and placed second out of 11 jazz bands and did really well up there. All right, and getting into winter sports, boys basketball. 11 and 12 overall, finished 6 and 10 in the CIML, made it to the sub-state semifinal and lost to Ames, who eventually went on to state. Played 5 different levels this year, had 2 ninth grade teams. Girls basketball, 4 and 18 overall, 0 and 16 in the CIML. They played 2 levels this year, varsity and JV. They lost to Valley in sub-state. Boys wrestling, 8 state qualifiers, including Kane Tigas, who lost in the championship to a kid from Carlisle. Caleb Arroyo got 8th place, so both of them ended up on the podium. Another big news story here, Mike Moreno retiring after lots and lots of years as wrestling coach, leaving quite a legacy behind. Girls wrestling program, they're growing, 16 letter winners this year. They've been with Dowling as a co-op for the last 3 years. This year, that partnership is splitting. Valley and Dowling are going to go together, and we're going to go with Johnston for the upcoming school year. Boys bowling, Damian Tim won the conference championship. I believe he came out for a board meeting a little while back. Also placed 8th at state. We had 3 other place winners at the conference meet, and Timmy Dang, who was just up here for soccer, and then Sam Pulowski also qualified for the state meet this year. As a team, they got 3rd at the state qualifying meet, missed the cut to actually make the state tournament. Girls bowling, conference meet had 3 place winners as well, and then finished 5th at the state qualifying meet. Boys swimming, co-op with Johnston. We had 3 varsity swimmers this year, Preston Molis, Pax Marchese, and Matthew Nelson. And then Preston made the regional team for Johnston to compete in the postseason. Boys track and field, 3 Drake relays qualifiers, and then we had 8 state qualifying events, including several students who qualified in more than one event, including Dominic Cabildo and Gino Shirata, who qualified in 3 events apiece. Girls, we had 2 state qualifiers or 2 qualifiers for the Drake relays, and then 10 state qualifying events. Fiona Mulligan qualifying in 4 events, which is the max. It's pretty awesome. Then we had 3 girls that qualified in 3 events, which is really good. Boys soccer, I don't know if I'm just kidding. Boys soccer obviously had a good season, 12-4 overall, 5-3 in the CIML, tied for second. I was looking through Valley's record earlier because, like I said, they lost to Valley 1-0. Ames beat Valley like the second game of the year by, I think it was 1-0. And then I think they had one other game where they beat somebody 1-0. So like we played Valley pretty much the toughest that any other team did outside of Ames who beat them. So like I said, they would have competed for a state title regardless of class this year. That was just a good team. One thing, we got an email today, but I've also been telling other people this. If you look at youth programming, because I think that's one of the big themes that's come up from the CIML conversation is what are we doing to develop our youth? A few slides ago, looking at wrestling, we've got a strong youth wrestling program. We've got 8 state qualifiers this year. We've got a strong, 2 community groups for soccer, including the Jayhawk Soccer Club, that's really developing kids. And this is one of the results of that. So there should be more coming with youth development here in the coming months. I've been talking to some people that lead some of those groups, and we're trying to get on the same page to see how we can all help each other out and grow everybody's programs. Girls soccer, 5-12-1 overall, 0-8 in the CIML. Played 2 levels this year, varsity and JV. Boys tennis, 4-12 overall, 1-7 in the CIML. Lost in the sub-state semifinal. Girls tennis, 8-6 overall, 4-4 in the CIML. Should note that 4-4 in the CIML is really good. Those 4 teams they lost to are all, like, I think they're the top 4 teams in the state. The CIML in tennis is really hard for girls. And then we kind of got a rough draw in the postseason where we lost in the regional final, but probably could have gotten a better draw from the state based on the competition that we played and how well we did in the CIML. We did have state doubles qualifiers. Danny Peterson and Olivia Cannon made it, so congrats to those girls. Girls golf, their program, they're working on building the program up. Numbers are pretty low right now, but we're going to work on some ways to get those numbers up. 4-74 overall, 0-12 in the CIML. Brooklyn Hartman, though, was the CIML place winner at the conference meet. And that brings us to summer. Summer softball, they finished 3rd in state last year. They're young, but they're returning 12 players from last year's roster, so they still should be pretty tough. CIML is going to be tough again, so their record might not be great at the end of the season, but they're going to compete in the postseason again. I just have a feeling that they've got enough experience that they're going to win games, they're going to lose games, but when push comes to shove, I think they're going to compete. And then baseball, 18 returning from last year's roster, new head coach Troy Tronson. They've got a lot of good pieces to work with this year too. They really have potential to make a run as well, so hopefully we're back here in a couple months talking about a couple other teams that made it to state. So.
Didn't we have a softball girl who broke a home run record today?
Yeah.
Or
Tatum Johnson, she broke the school softball or home run record. It was actually last week against Ankeny, and then she's hit I think 4 more since then. So she just keeps building on.
she's got to set her own record.
So she's by the time she graduates, the record's going to be tough to beat at that point. Made some new head coaching hires this spring. Jeff Sand is our varsity wrestling coach. Jamie Reynolds is the Jaywalkers coach. Pete Trainer is the football coach, and Peyton Mars as our head cross country coach. And last, thank you guys for working with us. We've got Connor on board, we got Stacy on board. I feel real positive about the direction things are heading. When I retire, I'll write a book about this whole transition. But I'll keep a lot of that to myself for now, but it's been a challenge, and I know that we're not doing as well as we will be soon. So thank you for your patience, and I appreciate your support with all this.
Thanks for your work.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're up.
Nice to meet you, Connor.
Good to meet you.
You already have an Urbandale shirt.
I do.
Looks good on you.
I have to get more though.
Don't take that to Dow Center with you.
No,
They got their own.
Okay, Dr.
Okay. So I wanted to point out some highlights for the DMAC credits that were earned by our students. We had a total of 31 credentials earned by seniors district-wide. We had 7 advanced nurse aides, 4 blueprint reading, 1 C developer, 2 emergency medical technicians, 3 liberal arts with an AA, 2 liberal arts with an AS, 8 nurses aides, and 4 thermal cutting welding. So we've had quite a success with our students that are earning credits from DMAC, and that's every credit that they earn through us is one less check that the parents have to write. So it's really nice to be able to send them off having those credits. Our registration continues, and I think our regular announcements are helping. We're well over 3,000 students registered. So that is a very positive sign, and we still have a little bit of time this summer. And the next literacy event is Read Around the Bases, and this is gonna be on June 17th from 6 to 7 p.m. at both the baseball and the softball field. And I know this flyer was put out on social media as well as on our website, but again, this is an opportunity for parents to bring their little ones out so they can hear a story as they go around the bases. They can throw some pitches, and they will get a free ticket to the next game, which is on June 18th. Parking is at the high school. There should be plenty of parking there, but we hope that we can have more people come out and join us with this literacy event. I know Jenny, one of our own, is on the committee, so there's a lot of hard work that goes into this, and I know they enjoyed the Read Around the Pond. So this is just another event that we can showcase our students. The baseball and softball
Yeah.
team are doing the reading.
They're doing
correct?
the reading, yep.
So we invite everybody to come out for that. So now I will ask Mike Klingensmith to come up. He has a Buildings and Grounds Summer Projects update. He's our new coordinator for Buildings and Grounds.
Well, I didn't have a bunch of pictures like Jared did. Fancy slide, but just first of all, at the high school, we've got quite a few things going on. With the first phase of woodwind controls, HVAC updates, which is critical to the heating and cooling in the building. Also, I'd like to note, I didn't have on here, we rebuilt the chiller as well. So we rebuilt the chiller in place and have a 10-year warranty with that. So it's big, like a train engine. So they just, everything inside of it's new. Later this season, we'll basically shut it down, and we have some other sensors and things that are gonna go on around it. But good updates there with the HVAC controls and the chiller. And then also, we've got rooftop exhaust fans. We've got quite a few of those ready to go for bathroom fans, things like that, quite a few of those need to be updated. Bearings, motors, some of them leak. So we've got that in the works. And then one of my projects, I want to get cleaned up around the stadium, under the bleachers and different things that we can either sell, and the things that need to go away just need to go away. So some housekeeping there. I've got lined up to rebuild some can lights and chandeliers there. We have fluorescent lights that we can't get bulbs for. It's not very easy to get the bulbs for. I do have parts for those and have a new assistant coming in soon that's a licensed electrician, so he'll be able to help with that. Have some talented guys on our team, so keeping our older buildings that aren't really that old looking good and in good shape, and then also good preventative maintenance on our new buildings. And then, excuse me, we have grant money that we used to install classroom locks. So inside the interior side of the classroom doors, in middle school, Webster, and high school all have thumb latches. So it's easy access for anyone in case of an emergency. They're able to lock the doors easily without a key. So we're doing that. Most of that's done. We're, yeah, I would say about 90% done there. And then still at the high school, I had fuel cabinets that were rusting out, leaking. I see as a safety issue. Some gas cylinders around the concession stands, getting those organized and locked up. And then just recently installed a new clock system, keeping all the clocks in place. So when they're not synced up, it's an issue. You get a lot of calls about that. So who knew? Keeping everybody on time. So we got a new system with that. It's more complex than I thought, but high school's on time. So moving on to the middle school, we have boiler replacements kind of come to our attention where we lost pressure on 2 of 3 condensing boilers. So we had to shut it down and kind of in an emergency spot there to get those updated. They're right around, well, they're over 20 years old. So contractors would say we got good service life out of those, but they're ready to be replaced. So we're in the middle of working on that this summer, getting that ready to go. More rooftop exhaust fans there. Some of those were real old, I think from the 70s and hadn't run in years. Which brings me to the roof improvements. We re-roofed about 50% of that building with great results. So 99% of the building doesn't leak anymore, and it's really not roof problem. So it's good situation there with that. Also, the classroom locks there. The band practice rooms, they got that cleared out, ready to put new practice pods in, soundproof rooms. So that's a pretty cool project that I saw the plans to that. They have some nice stuff going in there. That'll be a nice area. I'm gonna get that going. And then at Olmsted, we've had some ongoing issues with the elevator. We have the contractor that installed it and that services it has agreed under warranty to replace the power plant. So those parts are due into June, he said today. So that would be the hydraulic pump, its motor, and its controls. So we should really be in good shape once they get that done. We're hoping to have good service life out of that. Various painting projects we wanted to do there. If we can find hands to do that, have some teachers helpers hopefully come in and do that. But overall, Olmsted's really performed well. I think it's a 5-year-old building now. Keep our preventative maintenance in place and keep it in good shape. Valerius, it's pretty new, doing pretty well. Pretty ordinary stuff there. I think neighbors want a fence along the south side. That's really all I've got there. It's kind of in limbo whether we're going to do that or not. It's in a storm easement, so it's not a great place for it. Kind of depends on how we decide to go with that. Karen Acres got a washer and dryer. I think a lot of people were excited about that. All the other schools, new schools that had combined over the years, these last few years, everybody has a way to wash their rags and stuff except for Karen Acres. We were able to find a spot for that and get that done with rebates from Menards. So got a screaming deal over Memorial Day. Did some hot shopping. So yeah, people are excited about it. I'm kind of excited myself. Got a good deal on that. So it was good for Karen Acres for that. Also, I've got, like I said, I got a couple good talented guys on the team, HVAC guys that are looking to work with another contractor to calibrate valves and try to get some control under Karen Acres. It really needs HVAC control updates as well. It's very expensive, but we're gonna do what we can to make the system work right with what we have, if we can do that for as little as possible. Just try to get it dialed in. So we're gonna try to work on that when kids get out here mid-June. The city actually has some improvements planned for a detention drain area there, south side of the property. It's not really our project, but it will be happening there. Hopefully that serves us all well in the area with the new playground. And then we've cleared a line from the parking lot. The parking lot's kind of a situation. It holds water when it rains quite a bit, but we've got that cleared out and cleaned up. I think once all this is done, hopefully we can mitigate stormwater there a little better. So moving on to Webster is where got a lot of work going on there with Woodman Controls and their HVAC overhaul. We kind of lost control of HVAC there as well. Everything had just outdated really. So once they overhaul controls, we're gonna have some HVAC valves and other electrical motors subsequently that will probably need repaired or replaced to commission the system. But that's exciting to get control over Webster again. The HVAC situation. Also, we're looking at the loading dock in the back of Webster. Nobody probably cares about that, but there is a space there. The loading dock, the concrete has heaved for whatever reason over the years. It's the bollards around the dumpster area and on the loading dock started to crumble pretty bad. I'm actually looking at it with a contractor tomorrow to see kind of what we're looking at cost wise, but it is crumbling. So we're looking to upgrade the playground potentially. There it's getting towards its end of its life as well. And we share that property with the city, or it's the city's property with our playground. It's really kind of unclear how we're gonna move forward with that. If we can agree to go in on a new playground with the city, or if we built it on our property, or I don't know how deep I get into this.
It's $1 million question.
It's a unique situation that we have a playground on city property that, the school uses. So how do we pay for that? It gets to the point where some things are needing repaired or replaced. So we're looking into that. And I think that's really all I've got. Just cut it off.
Nice summary and welcome.
Oh, thank you. Might have pictures next time.
I want to see all the boiler pictures. They're
Yeah,
costing
I
all
don't know
the
if
money.
anybody's interested in seeing pictures of fans and boilers and different equipment, but maybe we could maybe do that. Wires and whatnot.
Thanks,
I
Marty.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, now the strategic plan update. So I'm gonna have my team come up and somebody move the arrows. We're gonna go ahead and start out with Denise. This is your quarterly review of our strategic plan. So we've got some great data for you.
Right, so this is your June update, which mostly we're going to focus on those end of year data results, especially those tied to our annual goals from this past year. So this is just the graphic reminder that our work tonight is really focusing on that outer circle, district-wide data. We do have all of our data by all of these other levels. Those analyses happen in various places all over the system with different groups of people to make decisions throughout our system. So this is just reminding you that you will approve the next strategic plan. So this strategic plan is from last June was when you approved it. And so this is just kind of that final update about how everything has gone. And then throughout the presentation, you'll see the components that make up our culture of dignity and belonging. I will just share with you that for our new strategic plan, we did have a lot of conversation about how the culture of dignity and belonging fits with our strategic goals and that overall strategic plan. And where we really landed was that this is the framework within which we execute all of those strategic actions. So thinking about how does this strategic action, what do I need to think about with gleam and beam and dream, right? Like all of those elements. But you will see the graphic throughout our presentation on each pillar tonight.
So I get to give you some high points on the student achievement pillar, and this is probably the one I'm the most excited about because we don't always get to talk about student achievement, and we have some really good data that's come out of our recent assessments. Starting off a celebration with our ELA, which is English Language Arts. In ISASP, we did increase from 72.9 to 77.17. Didn't meet our 79% goal, but that's a very nice improvement and it's very close. In our math ISASP, we had a goal of 75%. We didn't meet that goal, but we did go from 66.8 to 71%. So that's another one in definitely the positive direction. And science, which always seems to be a hard one to tick up, we increased from 58.8 to 70% in the current year. So I feel like that's a really big accomplishment, and I know our elementary teachers are working really hard on science, as are content teachers in the secondary level. So also we'll remind everyone that the data that makes up where these comments come from is also in Simbly, so I'm sure if any of you read that, you might have questions later, so we will be happy to answer those. For areas that we believe we could improve, and although again, each of these three areas showed improvement, the 80% proficient is what we're looking at to see that we call it a healthy tier, healthy core, and that's your tier 1. That's where all that everyday instruction comes from. So we're close, but we didn't quite hit that. So that would be the next thing that we would really like to see is being able to hit that 80%.
I'm going to speak to the next pillar, which we're transitioning from having a separate pillar for equity and inclusion. And this area will focus in on that school-wide and system structures along with teaching and learning. So in this area, our goal around 3rd grade literacy proficiency, while we didn't meet the 100% goal, we did move from 78% to 83% proficient in 3rd grade literacy results district-wide. And then while we did not meet our 42% proficiency goal for Algebra 1 end of the year assessment, we did move from 14% proficiency to 35.4%. And then our opportunity for improvement is in the area of absenteeism. We still, the percent of chronically absent students continues to demonstrate an adverse trend, and so we really want to see that turn around as we move forward.
For our service pillar, this relates very closely to our caregiver and community partnerships, which are based on trust and honesty, and a shared responsibility for student success are the foundation. So some of our celebrations, we met the goals for barriers for engagement on the family and school relationships survey. And we saw an increase on the school climate topic from the 30th percentile to the 40th percentile. In both of these areas, we saw a growth of 10 percentile, which was very exciting. An opportunity that we have for improvement is in the area of school safety, which did not change from previous administrations of the survey.
The people pillar connects to the culture of dignity and belonging, specifically in the area of school-wide systems and structures. There's much to celebrate in the people pillar. The teacher survey annual goals were met in the areas of teaching efficacy, school climate, and feedback and coaching. There was also growth on the teacher survey from last spring to this spring in the areas of school leadership and professional learning. The staff survey is what's given to anyone who's not a teacher within the district. And the staff survey also had several goals that were met, including school climate, school leadership, and professional learning. And then the evaluation topic on the staff survey remained at the 40th percentile and has been identified as an opportunity for improvement.
And our last one is safety and well-being, connected to school-wide system structures as well as teaching and learning. And we have a celebration here, which is that all social emotional data, pre-K strategies gold, SABRS and My SABRS, all indicate a healthy tier 1 instruction by demonstrating 80% proficiency or higher.
So as we look further down the agenda and ask you to approve the 25-26 strategic plan, my hope is that you are noticing some of those connections between our opportunities for improvement that you're seeing here and what we've highlighted for strategic actions across all of those areas in this upcoming year. Do we have any questions?
I had one. With the chronic absenteeism, is part of the struggle because the rules and guidelines around it are changing, or is that not an impact on the current numbers?
One of the things to notice with the numbers that are presented here is that there's actually two different ways to determine chronic absenteeism.
Okay.
There's a chronic absenteeism compliance, which is some of the new laws and legislation with the certified mail, but then there's also the way that the state looks at the chronic absenteeism where there are no exemptions. So any absences at all are figured into that number, whereas the compliance piece, there are different exemptions of different absences that don't count towards chronic absenteeism, which is not the case with what we're seeing here.
Okay.
There is a lot of work being done with our building teams and planning for next year as some of the ways to increase that engagement for students and looking at the multiple facets of students wanting to be in the building. How are we providing instructions that are meeting their needs? How are we making them feel as though they are safe and welcome and belong in our spaces as well?
And Karen Acres is still in session, so we don't have the full final number. I think the bottom line is come to school. I mean, there's things that happen when a student is suspended in school or out of school, those different things, but ultimately kids need to be in school. And we hope that we can help parents understand the need to send them to school every day. So whether the law changes again or not, we still expect our kids to be in school. So I think looking at the data and being able to break it down and say which grade level, which population, where do we need to look to see what is going on. I've seen a lot of stories and strategies in some of my professional magazines that different districts are looking at. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So that's part of what we need to do.
And there you'll see a strategic action on our updated strategic plan for next year that's specific about implementing a multi-tiered system of support for attendance. Stephanie led a team this winter, particularly looking at those tier 1, tier 2 ways that we're supporting our students and families in getting students to school. And then there's also just that messaging part. Doesn't matter if it's exempt or not. Bottom line, we want your child in school.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you.
So now we would like to invite Eric Barron up, who we recently presented kind of a overview of our facility committee thinking to the city to get their initial response. No official applications, no just, hey, here's what we're thinking, just to see, was there anything that threw up a red flag that maybe we needed to rethink? And of course, we didn't get any confirmation of anything because we didn't do any formals, but we did have a nice conversation, I think. It was a successful meeting. I don't know, some of the people that were here, who was here. So we have people that were on the committee that are here as well, but I will let Eric go ahead and lead us through what we presented. And again, this is no formal, final anything. This is just where our thoughts are.
Sorry I don't have a trophy tonight for me.
It'd have to be a pretty big one to beat that one.
Great opening acts, I appreciate that.
Eric, I'll let you drive
Yeah.
the presentation.
Just the
You can
arrow.
move it over, yeah, where you're comfortable.
So, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here again. So, just to give you a little bit of background, again, this is in addition to myself, some of my team members. There's many more people behind the scenes, but each of these had an instrumental part in leading the exercises. So, short agenda here, just for everybody's purpose, the why, the how, the what, and then just kind of what we propose as the next steps. So why district planning? So much like anything in life, in order to make steps forward, you have to plan. And so I think all of you are aware here, but for the purpose of the public and everything, some of the past improvements there on the left-hand side, those were all developed through a plan, whether it be short, long-term, you name it. All of those things had a plan in place and were executed, successfully. And so then some of the things that we asked the master planning committee, future considerations, and this is just a short list of the things that, the big ideas that came from that. There's many more things, and this is albeit focused on facility development. But there's also other things, just as you went through a strategic plan here with your group about academics and athletics and all the other things that are encompassed with that. So that's a good first step. So how do we do it? So in this process that you see here, there's actually more than 4 workshops, but we kind of take the guiding factor there of these 4 workshops with involvement from not only committee, but also staff and students and things. So we kind of roll that up into what you would ultimately see as the test and evaluate and kind of at the finalized. We're really at the finalized stage where we're refining the plan. We're trying to create consensus. That's why we met with the city in order to see where we can define the direction of the district and the community. Steps 5 and 6 are really, the next pieces. It's about financing. How do you do that? Is it through PEPAL? Is it through SAVE? Is it cash on hand, bond reference, those kinds of things? And then ultimately the implementation, which is probably the most public and visible piece when you're actually breaking ground on something. So just a quick overview of the process here. We've been meeting through those 4 workshops, you'll see, and then obviously independently with administration and things at different phases of time. But then you see there the city engagement meeting that we had on April 16th. And it was a good meeting. We've always endeavored to create and foster a collaborative environment with them and within the district. And so not to shortcut this group here or whatever, but we wanted to get some feedback so that we could bring you back more information and the reactions to the plan that was brought forward by the committee. And then you'll just see here I put up for, I don't think I'm not tipping the hand of anything, but it's in the capital improvement plan of the city of Urbandale. There's a 5-year plan that gets revised annually every year. They are planning, at least right now, a bond referendum in November 26th for a new police headquarters, and maybe some other projects get tied to that. I'll let the city talk about those things. But then also of interest is your AO lease in this space here has been, I believe, extended for one
It's actually January 31st.
January 31st.
Of 26 that it's up.
Okay. So I'll revise that. But that just calls into point, some of the information I'm gonna share with you here in just a little bit, so. One of the things that we did with the committee was ask them to develop some guiding principles. And the reason why we do that is, just like any plan that you have, when you hit a fork in the road, you have to come back to a principle. Why are we here? What are we doing? And what are the things that we want to address, and hopefully these guiding principles will help, help you when you get to those critical decision points. So in workshop 1, we led the committee through 3 different activities. One was a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The second one was a red dot, green dot, which really talks about the positives and less positives of each of the facilities, things that are working well that we want to preserve, and things that maybe could be improved or enhanced at all of your campuses there. And then the third was a wish, want, need. So we start on the outer ring and work our way to the center of what we actually need. And that helps create a priority listing and building consensus amongst that group, because again, sometimes the things that we wish we had in some people's minds become wants, and vice versa. And we want to narrow that down to what makes the district operate, what makes the community function, and then we can build from there to either expand programming or whatever it may be. And so in workshop 2, we took those activities and then began the kind of a project prioritization or common themes. Even though it seems like you may have consensus, even amongst a small group, but we had about 25 to 30 people at varying stages, you still have to build consensus within that group in order to get out to a larger audience. And so you can see here the work on the right-hand side of each of those groups beginning to prioritize amongst themselves, and then bringing it back to the common themes. And what rose to the top there is kind of the tier 1 of softball field, administrative offices, CTE program, which is career technical education, and maintenance facility. Tier 2 was then looking at modernizing and updating core learning spaces, specifically at the high school and middle school. And you see some of the things that were highlighted there: HVAC, lighting, finishes, and some of those things are already happening. HVAC, we're already taking baby steps towards that with controls or boilers and things, finishes in spaces like at the middle school, the music area renovation. So while this is an evolution, and it doesn't mean that we just deliver a master plan and say, well, here it is, this should evolve and be executed over time, and you're already doing that. The other things to look at in the tier 2 category were, how do we address pre-K at Karen Acres, and then also looking at some things that have been on the list for a long time, such as middle school track and field. That's always kind of been in the back of the mind, even as we were developing the high school program and reconstructing that property. So then in committee 3 or workshop 3, we took those tiers and we started to kind of put some pen to paper. And what you can see on the right side, there are some scenarios that were developed. We in-house DLR group prepared some of these scenarios in order to get feedback. Sometimes when you just show up with a blank piece of paper, it's hard to respond to something. So we understand that, and we took this to get committee feedback and talked about what we felt was a softball immediacy. Where this really all started from was the city announcing that they were in redevelopment stages at Lions Park. So if you have not been by Lions Park recently, they are, I believe, in phase 2, bordering phase 3 of a complete redevelopment of that. And part of that is redeveloping the area that the current softball field sits on. And so that's really what the catalyst for a lot of this was. Administration office, which is wanting to be central to the district. We talked about kind of how Urbandale is very elongated in the east and west direction, and even talking to the point of where existing facilities currently reside. You have a property that sits across the street from from Webster on 128th that has not been developed. You still own that. And talking about, well, but the core really to Urbandale has been, east of 86th Street with the high school, the elementary schools, and the middle school. Webster's kind of that outlier. But also looking at the administration office being here in this facility and paying rent, leasing this space, and how could those dollars maybe be better spent if you own the property. Same thing for maintenance facility. That is something that has gone back to even the high school development that was talked about. And just because of, again, timing, funds, property location and everything, that's never really come to fruition. You have a maintenance department over there, but for the size and operations that you're doing and using, it could be better structured. And then focus on sometimes these master plans always focus on the here and the now and what you have. And so we challenge the group to say, what are some of the things that you wish you could do? How can we make Urbandale a better place, a better community, a better school district, and expand programming? You have a career and technical department right now, offering some things like culinary arts and wood shop. But how could you make that? How could you make that better? How could you be a magnet to that other school districts are not doing in the metro and bring that to Urbandale? So that was talking about leveraging business partnerships and what kind of opportunities do you have through the campuses that you currently own, and then long-term capacity expansion at the middle school. And so then getting to workshop 4, really culminating in here, trying to truly build consensus amongst that group. And we had some really good conversations with the committee in how we proceed. Again, there's no one right way or wrong way to go about these things, but ultimately to get the consensus of that 25 to 30 people as a representative of what you ultimately may want to go to the community with and how you describe things. So you can see kind of some matrix charts and some polling that we had done in order to get to that decision about how and what do we prioritize and what those tiers were that we talked about previously. Okay. Which leads us to the what, right? What are the solutions? What did the committee kind of come forward with? And so what I'm going to show you here is, again, preliminary. Nothing is written in stone. Nothing has been voted on, acted on, funded. Yeah, everything can be subject to change. But this is what the committee had brought forward. And again, the immediacy, talking about the softball program, was utilizing existing land acreage that you have and how that might look. And so we did some studies and brought forward a proposal here to place the softball field on the north end of the middle school property. Townsend runs east-west along the north part there, and then you can see the middle school right in front, and then Aurora. And it's always been a challenge, when you look at that property, you have a large green space, and all those little lines that are on the squiggly lines are on there show the grade. So that means that the north half of that property, where the softball field there sits, is fairly level, but it does have a lot of fall to it, as you come to the south. And so that's been one issue of, how do you work through that? And at this point, again, talking about the central location of of most of your district facilities, specifically the high school and what this would serve, it didn't seem right to place the softball field at that west property across from Webster, right? You have the space out there, we can do that, but logistics, how do we get there? How do we service that, and how do we make that field part of the Urbandale community? Okay? So these are test fits, and one of the reasons why we had our meeting with the city was, again, looking at Townsend, there's a lot of traffic along there, there's a lot of parking that happens, specifically because of all the, what I'll call the pee-wee sports, right? All the intramural soccer, football, things that happen there. And then you have the apartment complex just to the north. Okay. Also in the tier 1 priority was talking about you have 2 properties, and again one of the evolutions was taking down the Jensen property. And that has already been resolved to the point of the building issue. You still own the property. There's still playground space there that is being used by the neighboring neighborhood. And then Rolling Green, being empty, not wanting that to kind of fall into the same ramifications of Jensen, right? How do we deal with a property that you already own, a building facility infrastructure that you already have, without having to recreate that and spend additional dollars? And so that was a discussion about, can we put the AO into that building? Can we also pair maintenance into that facility? And I think we can. We have not done any robust test fits or anything. That I'll get into that here in a moment. But you have the space, you have the wherewithal to do that. And then looking at the high school, well, what does that mean as you look at a tier 2 priority? Again, so that people don't mistake or, see this and like, oh my God, what's happening? We are showing and illustrating the potential that there could be a new CTE wing program expansion at the high school property. And we know that the high school is already landlocked, and there's not many places to grow on there. So what happens if we have that space to the west where currently Barton Field is, and put a program there? We know that we'll have to expand some things with stormwater management. We know that parking and things will still have to be addressed in that. So what does that mean if we're expanding programming for your students at this location? It means that we probably have to move the baseball field. These are all phased things. It does not all have to happen at once. This can happen over time, right? And time is just resources and of that nature. So we did a test fit here to show that the baseball field can be paired now and have a joint facility at that property that you own north of the middle school. Again, the encroachment along the center wooded area, that's all to be determined, but at least we're showing you how that could work. The gray spot up there is for parking. Presumably that as you have events and things, the city code does require that you have event space parking. And then the other thing that has been on the docket and discussion board for a long time is middle school track, middle school football, and soccer, and all the things that go into that. And so currently over on the east side there, they are using that upper level portion. If you've been to the middle school lately, on the lower portion you see the bus turnaround. There's a very significant grade differential with a retaining wall there. But on the upper level there, that is where the high school plays their JV football games, and they don't really run. There's a lot of running that goes around this property just in general. But looking at how is a very, very narrow area, and we're showing that we can put a reduced track. You would not need this to be an 8-lane track like you have at your high school, because you would host competition and everything at your high school track. But providing an area for them with a paved track, and then fitting what would be soccer and football spaces inside there. Natural turf, synthetic turf, that you have those options of things, okay? And so that gets us then to the discussion and next steps of where we're headed here. We did have a good meeting, a collaboration meeting with the city on April 16th. The 3 entities that you see there. And we had some good discussions. Nothing was, approved again at that meeting. Nothing was set in stone. And the best outcome was nobody said no. And we were just testing the waters to see what could come of the plan that we've illustrated, and the city has indicated their willingness to work with the district, in proceeding forward with, if this were the plan, to move forward with that. So one of I mentioned earlier that the catalyst for this master plan was not only the culmination of finishing your other planning work related to elementary consolidations and other facility improvements. But it was really about the softball field. And so one of the biggest questions in all of our minds was the timeline. What is the timeline for that? For the city making that move and having us vacate the softball field. And so again, this is this is from the city, excerpt from the community improvement plan that was issued or revised in January of this year. And you can see on the left-hand side the phases that they have that they've illustrated. And so everything, if you haven't been by there, it looks nice, but they've kind of done everything on the south side. They've done the new pickleball courts and the schoolyard games area. The playground is yet to be fully completed because the shelter house is still there. But they have made some other improvements with a detention area and stuff. And so what you'll notice, and I highlighted here, is that phase 5, unprogrammed, and they just listed out a dollar amount, which is not consequence here, but it is not programmed yet. And that the area of the, you can see on the upper right-hand corner, I don't know if I can show, over here, this is where the softball field currently sits. And this is where the proposed shelter is to be. So right now the shelter house sits like right here. So you can see here the construction of new enclosed shelter and new open air shelters. That work does not have a timeline to it. Okay, you can see everything else is 2024, 25. Phase 4 is 2028, which is not yet done. That'd be the reconstruction of the gazebo that sits in the northwest corner there. So the good news here is that we have a little bit of time. There was kind of a sense of urgency that, oh man, they're going to vacate this in like a year and we're going to be left, hanging. That at least in the capital improvements plan from a few months ago, that's not the case. So that leads us kind of to the next, where do we go with this? And so this is kind of a proposal that we have, that I'm bringing forward. We've talked just in generalities with the administration to work through some timelines and things that we don't, number one, compete with each other, meaning compete with the city, but also works to, what I'll say, maximize support when you're looking at potential bond referendums. And I say that just because I think for the planning and everything to do all of the things that you need to do probably results in some kind of bond referendum at some point in time. Otherwise, we're extending this through just kind of pay as you go, and that'll be a long drawn out process. Looking at bolstering support for these types of things. There's no secret to this. I participate in a lot of bond referendums, a lot of bond campaigns across the state, and our group across the country. The community wants to pay for, they want to support new programming, they want to, everything for students. And I know that the AO and maintenance exists for the students, right? You can't operate a school district without it. But it's not really that, that fun and exciting to pay for those kinds of things through bond referendums. So if you were to use cash on hand, I'd recommend, looking at some kind of financing strategy. Talk to Piper Sandler, your financial consultant, and Steve, and look at how we can relocate the district office and not pay the lease dollars that we're paying here, and convert those back into district funds. I'll have to revise the December 26th Air District relocation, based on the leasing time. But I still think this is doable, that we can get you into that space in some way, shape, or form. And again, do this through a phased approach potentially, and get you to where you need to be, so that you're not paying those lease dollars.
But you could leave the December if we went that way. Yep. And ask for a year's extension. Correct. On this lease. But correct.
Yeah, this was predicated on that year extension of your current lease in this location, so that we don't have to rush things. We want to do things right, and so that gives you kind of the timeline there that we would look at. I put the next piece on there again, just looking again at the overall structure. While the city and the school do have a good partnership in a lot of things, and you've done that over the years, you are two competing entities when it comes to financing, right? And so things that we learned, things that are just kind of out there is that if the city is going to run a bond referendum, again, to be determined, I'm not speaking on behalf of the city in any way, shape, or form. It's talked about in their capital improvements plan, but if that is something that they would go to bond for in November 26th, that is November 2025, this year, your next opportunity for district financing at that point. I don't think you're ready, right? I don't think the community is ready for that. So the next opportunity would be November 26th. That would be in direct competition with the city. I don't think that would be that's like running a two-question vote, two-ballot vote, which we have also seen historically does not run well even when it's for the same entity. People usually support the first one and the support trails off in that second one. So what does that mean looking at the district long-term capital improvements? Again, the district has done great job with kind of a 10-year master plan of looking at those things that you need to accomplish, like boiler replacements, like roof replacements, like music revitalization. So let's take the time, while we do something with the relocation of these offices, work with Piper Sandler on what a financing plan could look like, get your consensus and everything in order, and potentially you could run something in 27. And whether it's knocking out 1, 2, 5, all of it, yet to be determined. We don't have to decide anything tonight, but there's a large chunk of dollars and things that have been proposed in that tier 1, tier 2 master plan that I just illustrated for you. And I think a lot of things could be taken care of in a comprehensive bond. And those are things that a community would support, right? Expanded programming, relocation of your athletic facilities, enhancement of your athletic facilities, and other things that may come about even through academics. This is not all about athletics. Again, we talked about CTE programming and anything else that may come down the pipe. So with that is a short synopsis of the master plan and the committee's work. And I don't know, Drew, is there anything that you want to add to that, or
Anybody else that's here too?
So, yeah, we had a great participation by all the committee members. I thank them, but I want to thank them again publicly for their time and their efforts and their work, because it's kind of a thankless job. and they had some very thoughtful conversations. So.
And I just want to say for anybody that's listening too, when we get to the point, if we get to the point that we're going to take anything to the community for a vote, where there will be, I call them kind of traveling shows where we can explain it, they can ask questions, offer input. That's where we want to hear those, if it's clear that the community won't support a component of this, then that's work that we have to go back and do. So I don't want anybody who's listening to think this is it, there's no alterations at all. This needs to be what's right for the community, the school district, our students, and our families. So that's just a piece I want to make sure was clear.
Eric, on the new AO proposal, as we're thinking about this, and your recommendation would be for us to take this out of cash on hand and figure out a way to finance this internally without a bond issue. Mike, is it feasible to do that if we get into that building that hasn't been heated and cooled for 3 years, that we may decide, we're gonna have to just level this and start over? Or, I'm assuming you've taken into account a remodel versus actual brand new construction. So what would that look like if we get into that situation?
Correct. So I would say we would go back to the way we've had a lot of quick start projects here, right? We come, we got to do boiler replacement, we design it and we get it done. We have not gone through detailed design with the administration, with the district itself. So same process that we've done with Olmsted and Valerius and high school and Webster is let's go through a design process. Let's program what you need and how that would fit into that space. And there's design phases: pre-design, schematic design, design development, construction documents, and then bidding, right? For all of these small projects, we've kind of done construction documents, bidding, and then we're doing it. Even Metro West was, let's go through the design process, let's get costs evaluated at each one of those phases, and then and if we find we get to a point where, oh man, this is not going to work. I think for Jensen, I can honestly, safely, without a doubt, say that was not the right facility, and knowing the conditions of the mechanicals and electrical there, that was a good decision which you made. I think there is a real potential for Bowling Green. We have not gone in and done, room by room, nut by nut, kind of evaluation. But I think there's enough that we can salvage and look at making this a reasonable cost proposal to move into that space. And again, the beauty of that is that owning that space and doing it even in a phased approach manner, it buys you time and it allows you to bank the dollars that you're spending here on a regular basis, put those dollars into the renovation of that facility and make it what it needs to be, and do that again if depending on the district financing. Do that in a phased approach. Right? We want to get you as much as we can, on everything. We don't want you to band-aid anything, but we want you to do it right and look at that facility is large enough that I think it can incorporate and house both of your programs, because one of them you've just got a couple of offices at the high school and you've got a lot of equipment sitting outside and things like that. I think there's ways that we can make that work. You don't have a lot of noisy operations, so when people say, "Oh, maintenance facility going into the neighborhood," no, it's not. We're not welding and rebuilding engines and all that kind of stuff there. It's commodity storage, right? I mean, places that you can put just paper supplies, all that kind of stuff. And then what does that mean for the high school if they vacate that space? Do you have automatic expansion space for any kind of program that you would need early on before you even get to talking about baseball fields and large CTE centers and things like that? So yes, to answer your question, I think it is feasible in a more economical way than starting from the ground up. But if that is necessary, you have that ability. Now, one thing that we did run into with the city is that is not zoned for, I believe, business occupancy, which is what your admin. Everybody, when you look at city codes and things, you're an education entity, but the building that you're in is a business, right? So there probably would have to be some rezoning things that would have to go to council and get their buy-in for that. But the good news is that if anything, you have less traffic, less noise.
No buses.
No buses. You don't have 200 kindergartners screaming, things of that nature. So I think it's doable. I think it's feasible. There will just be some steps and some hoops to go through. So.
And there was a question on the basically how long do we have? I mean, what you've outlined here is really a year and a half. That building isn't going to sit there for real long,
right?
And the longer we wait, I mean, what do you think, Mike?
With the boilers there, we have one that we may be able to fire up, but we have to protect that building from fire, so we have live sprinkler system in there, so we got to keep it heated. It hasn't been air conditioned
since Karen Akers moved
in
out.
quite a few years, but I'm not sure that we'll be able to fire that boiler up again. One boiler. So it gets cold in areas there. There is one significant leak in the roof, but walking around the building, I think that the structure overall does have good integrity still, as far as like brick and heaving and different things in the walls. So I think there is potential for that building. Just it needs HVAC overhaul and a good roof soon.
I think from historical reference, when we built the high school on the existing site, which, you know, ages me, obviously, Eric and Lauren. And I think that was appealing to the community. I think it was appealing to restructure Olmsted on the existing site, and Valerius. And so I think there's some appeal that we have this existing property for the community to actually see that occupied in a useful way. And I would continue, I mean, I love Webster, I live out by there, but the bottom line is the majority of our population is on the east side. And I think one of the challenging things about this facility is that it's not easily accessible for most of our personnel and most of our parents. And it's hard to find. And so I think, you know, we could make compelling arguments for repurposing that property. The other thing that I would bring up, having attended some of these meetings, is we do have these two properties that have some value. They're just sitting right now. And so, you know, we could examine that possibility too, of selling those and using that for our purposes that would serve more purpose than the rent we get from the farm ground. So I really appreciated the insights and the varied group that you put together. And I would say, if we were able to go together, that moving forward, we could continue that kind of input from a broad base of the community, I think would be, I mean, that's what we did with the high school, and that was a key to its success, I think. And so, and you know, the good thing is that you and your firm have been around to watch us go through all of this. I would hope that the city on all these projects would see the benefit to real estate and the services they're providing and the attractiveness of the community to see their way to assisting with this, because I share a big concern about Townsend and the ability to have enough lanes for the traffic that would happen, you know, with baseball and softball. I also, you know, some of the things that did come out, this baseball field is not in great shape either. It has come to our attention. And so the ability to have both those facilities next door to each other and allow people to go to both, share concessions, share new restrooms, and eliminate some of the, well, you like them better, or you're treating them better. We could start out with an even, you know, tablet, and everyone can see that there's equity there between those sports. And so I can see a lot of really neat possibilities. The other thing that I would bring up is I was in on the beginning at the high school, and you know, it was 20 years ago, and we didn't necessarily envision the movement toward technical and career education. That has happened. I mean, that was, you know, No Child Left Behind and, you know, a nation at risk. And so there was this completely different emphasis than there is right now. And we don't have the facilities to keep up with that. And I think it's a big disadvantage to our students to not fulfill some of those things. And so I think that is another easy sell to say, you know, this might draw open enrolled kids from DCG or, you know, depending on the programming, or a Johnson, because they could access it. It's very difficult to access Central Academy or campus from here with our alternate day schedule. It's also a challenge to get out to DMAC and still take classes. You know, we have a schedule at the high school and at the middle school that really serves our staff and our students well, but it doesn't always jive with other educational entities. So I think the more centralized that we can be with those opportunities, the better it is for our students, whether or not that happens in the next few years. And again, I just want to thank the people that were on the committee. You guys, even though we didn't all agree on the possibilities and what we should be doing, and there's always more that we could be doing, but it's encouraging to me that the high school came up 20 years ago and we are continuing to examine, you know, how we could do it better instead of saying, oh, we've got all new buildings, it doesn't matter. It does matter. So I appreciate your patience with all of us and running interference with the city who doesn't like our zoning.
It's all good.
Okay.
So I just wanna, I know there was a question on the softball lease, and that lease, the last one that we had in place expires on October 31st of this year, so that would be coming to the board in the fall to be redone, and they gave 2 seasons, so this current one was for the 2024 season and the 2025 season, so what we would be asking them for is the 2026 and the 2027 season. I think after that, it would be the 2028, so I think we'd have to look at the timeline and see if the city would, if that fits in their timeline. I tried to get a hold of them today to see if there was any change or any confirmation of a date. I don't have that, so I think we would be looking for that as well. And then the other thing that was asked was, what is the cost that we're paying now for AO1 and AO2 and the storage unit, which comes up for renewal in August, so we'll have to bring that back to the board for contract renewal. But we're paying for AO1 and AO2 together $13,607 and some change every month. The storage unit, we're paying $1,100 a month. And so every month, we're paying to somebody else $14,707, which amounts to, rounded off, $176,488 a year. So that's money that we're just sending out that we would hope to not be sending out anymore for having space that we actually own.
Multiply that out by the number of years we've been here.
We did
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Well, and then if you multiply it too, if we waited on the AO piece, if the bond referendum went through in 2027, that's three,
More time.
2.5 more years of that, so.
And the other question was, what's our alternative? We also are not, I don't believe, we're not charging the city to use Rolling Green for their PD and fire assessments. That's a real life situation that we partner with them so that they can come in and do those assessments. They used to do them at Jensen until it got too bad, then they said no thanks, which I don't disagree with. But I would have to look for one. I don't have an alternative right now for the softball field. Like, if they came to us and said, nope, we're not gonna renew it in October, I don't know what I would do. I would have
say
to,
that's my biggest concern, without having some sort of a timeline from the city on the softball field. Because softball is one season a year, but it means the world to all those players and their families and a large portion of our community. So it feels very risky to me to put them off. Very risky, because to be determined, we're not in a hurry, doesn't give us, this is it. So like, if we have 2 years, a new 2-year contract,
assuming that they
right?
allow us to go
Assuming they
into
allow us to, if we go for bond November 27, that doesn't give us time to have it approved. And that's assuming it gets approved the first time. It doesn't always happen. Yeah.
But if they approved it in November, can you build it by May? I'm gonna guess that's a no.
They start practicing and scrimmaging end of March, beginning of April. So it's.
Yeah, and that was one of the conversations and comments, is you do take a lot of risk putting that component into a bond referendum. But if the bond referendum doesn't pass, right, then you're kind of stuck. And that's where I do recommend, with Steve's input and meeting with Piper Sandler to really truly understand what all your financing capabilities and components are, as to whether that can be moved up, right, instead of AO, does that get moved up? I know that means you're here longer, or can both happen simultaneously? Those are bigger questions, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. And we want to give you some information so that you all can make an informed decision, knowing where, all the kind of the balls that are in the air.
And I don't wanna forget that the baseball field needs work. So the longer, it's kind of, I like, look at the baseball field like Rolling Green, how long can we leave it before we're really gonna have to put some money in? And we don't wanna put money into something that we might be moving, cause that doesn't make any sense. So it's setting up these kind of dominoes in a way that we're not ignoring the work that has to happen at the baseball field. We're not ignoring the fact that Rolling Green is closed up. It's just how do we put all this together? And I think that's, you know, what the board wants us to do from here. I don't know, do you want us to start pricing some of these things out? Do you want me to have somebody take a look at the baseball field? If we didn't move it, what would it cost? Those are all the kind of things that we need a little.
My thought immediately goes to the question, or the concern that was raised earlier about Townsend and its ability to handle that traffic. Related to that is the stress that a phased approach for that property would put on that neighborhood. I mean, that construction is going to be difficult for the neighborhood to put the softball field in. And then to go back in 2 years and say, oh, guess what, we're gonna do a baseball field. Oh, go back in 2 years, we're gonna do a middle school track and football field. I don't really like, I mean, nobody wants to go to the community and say, hey, give us, I don't know, $18-20 million for, you know, middle school redesigns. But if we're gonna do this, I think doing it once, because as we discovered when we tried to build Olmsted and Valerius, things don't necessarily get cheaper 5 years from now, 6 years from now. So I think if we're going to really take a look at this, give us the sun, moon, stars. Okay, what would it cost us to put all 3 facilities in the middle school over the course of a year and a half, whatever that would look like?
I think a key variable, and Eric was around, when we worked with Piper Jaffray, we could move up Valerius 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't understand the bonds at all, but that was kind of magical. And we saved a lot of money that way, and we got a generation of kids in a new building. So I think that's a key variable. It is possible that we've got bonds now that we could do, I mean, some magic with in order to do that. But all those things, you know, play in. So I think the finance thing is pretty key on what those things would cost. And then I think Piper Jaffray examining that and thinking about, you know, I mean, you were in on that too. I mean, we refinanced some pretty creative things from the high school.
Yep.
Without a bond issue. So again, that's a variable that we've utilized historically.
Do we own the Rolling Green property and the building?
Mhm.
And there's no debt in that?
And soon, just as a side note, we're gonna own the pool property. It was, the city's been really good about working with the Polk County assessor. That property, actually, there's a 1974 warranty deed that said when that property, if that property ever ceased to be a public pool, that would revert back to the district. So the city's filed the paperwork to have that happen, and then we have a document that is accepting that possession of that property, so that whole space is officially gonna be ours soon.
Okay.
Just to, it's not enough to build a softball field on, but it's gonna be our property, so.
I know, they could assist if you put a CTE there and some additional parking, possibly.
I wonder, I'm doubtful, but I wonder.
Yeah.
Can we get a website or some sort of landing page for the public just to get a snapshot of what's happening with facilities and some FAQs? Because I'm sure you all get questions about the pool property, the Jensen property, the Rolling Green property, and all of this other stuff too. If there could be something that's easy for people to get to and a living document that it might not have a lot of information at any given time, but just, I know this is something a lot of the community is really interested in.
Is Dina still back there? So maybe Dina and I can get together in the next week or two and talk about what that looks like. As you know, we're also changing our website later this summer, so I'd be happy to get with her and talk about how that could look and what we could do now versus waiting till then.
We still have our construction website up, that's just waiting for additional information on things, so.
Well, here it
We have a
is.
good place to put it.
It's a good idea.
So kind of what I'm hearing is some cost estimates and maybe more public access to information and what else?
Maybe even just like some starting point conversations with Piper Jaffray to see.
Whether we have
What-
any
what can-
existing bonds that we
Right.
could somehow.
What can we make work financially
Without
while we're
the bond.
waiting for our turn to request bond?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's 7:30. I don't know if
Shall we take a short recess?
that might be.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess so we can stretch our legs and. Okay. Long-term sub program update.
So each year since we've, the board gave approval for our full-time subs, we bring this back just to see if there's any, if the board has any, wants to make any changes to what we've done. We currently, in the last few years, we've had 15 full-time substitutes that we've had to go through the whole approval process. This year, we were filled at about 14 and a half of those positions for most of the year. Our fill rates this year, and we're not obviously quite done with Karen Acres, but have hovered right around 90% overall, which is really good data. The couple of areas that has really been critical for us, and this has been the case for a few years now, and probably one of these wasn't one that we were thinking a lot about when we started this, was the ability to fill long-term positions where we were unable to get others from the outside to be able to place in those positions. So this past year, we've had numerous long-term positions, and by that I mean basically anything where we've needed more than 2 weeks, whether it be a maternity leave or some other type of situation. Many of our full-time subs have played really critical roles there in filling those spots for periods of time. Obviously, we still use them as our last resort on many days to fill positions that are unfilled yet. And that remains very beneficial. The other thing that they've been very helpful with is when we have been close to or at 100% for a particular day, they have filled in some of our associate roles that we are often unable to completely fill, where they support one student in particular or small groups of students for those unfilled positions or positions where somebody just happens to be gone that day. So it remains very beneficial, but like we had said at the very start, we wanted to bring that back to this group just to reaffirm, or if there's a desire by the board to make any changes in terms of total numbers or anything around that we wanted to get your input on that. Does anybody have any questions about the roles of our long-term subs or full-time subs or anything around that?
Are you feeling good at 15, or do we need to adjust?
We do feel good at 15. This year, we have felt like that number has been appropriate, and where we haven't felt strapped, honestly, on most days. When you combine our full-time subs alongside of our other substitute pool, over the past few years, our regular substitute pool has increased. That's been very beneficial. But we still have, we don't have 100% fill by just using them, and that's where these full-time subs have been just essential to our overall functioning. And like I said, in some of these cases, we have folks that have subbed for a semester or more in rooms and been able to keep our system going, where it would have been much more choppy and where there's a lot of different people. The one thing that's really helpful for kids is to see consistent faces, and I would also really give kudos to our staff, our regular staff who works with our full-time subs on a regular basis and welcome them into our buildings. They become like our regular staff members, but they also support them a lot in collaboration and helping them with lesson planning and areas maybe where it's not their area of expertise. So I would just, long-winded there, but I would say that we feel pretty good about that number. But we also know it's a big financial commitment that the district is making as well to have 15 total.
Do you find that there are many days where you don't have teaching assignments for them?
We have some. Early in the year, overall attendance is pretty solid, for instance, in the first 6 weeks of the school year, and they've done as much filling in some of our classified needs as they have in classrooms. But we also have many more weeks of the year where they're all placed in regular teaching positions where it's harder to get to 100%. And even when we're doing that, we still aren't at 100%. So it just varies based on the time of year a lot, which hasn't changed much, even through COVID up through now, quite honestly.
I think 90% fill rate sounds amazing. And when I think about keeping our teachers happy, right? Because them having to fill in was not best for them or for students. So I love to hear that the rate is that high and.
Yeah, and that's, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's another major positive is pulling our teachers a lot less from the plan times that they have to get ready for their instruction. So that's also a big part of it too.
Yeah, huge.
So what I hear is that you are all good with where we're at and we can continue on. We have lost some of our full-time subs to other positions, which is awesome because it is a really nice stepping stone into the teaching field. We've been taking applications knowing that we would have this discussion. So we'll be moving forward soon and we've got a really nice pool of applications as well for this upcoming school year. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
And then the last thing, this is probably my longest section, is the first reading of updates to policy 638. These are graduation requirements, and you have a link to the policy on that agenda item. So again, anything crossed out is being removed, and anything in green is what is being added. I have not received any feedback on these from the public, but I will, of course, like usual, send it to you.
Okay, and we're on to public comment. Mr. Salmon, you'll be up first. Thanks for coming tonight. Board policy limits comments to 3 minutes per speaker. For confidentiality reasons, the board cannot discuss personnel matters. We appreciate your comments. The board has a significant interest in maintaining the decorum of its meetings and expects that members of the public and board will address each other with civility. The orderly process of a board meeting will not be interfered with or disrupted by public comment. Only individuals recognized by the board president will be allowed to speak. Comments by others are out of order. If disruptive, the individual causing disruption may be asked to leave the board meeting. Defamatory comments may be subject to legal action. And Steve, do you have the timer?
I do. Mark Solomon, 9442 Hammondtree Drive. When parents like myself got involved with the movement to join a new athletic conference over a year ago, I was certain that common sense would prevail. While I had never been to a school board meeting, the data and parental support were overwhelming. Then I came to a board meeting and quickly realized that this would be an uphill battle. There is a culture that's been established here to cover up problems and protect administrators above all else. Despite holding meetings every 2 to 4 weeks, parents like me were never once granted an open forum to discuss the issue. Instead, we were told that state law doesn't require it, and we were relegated to these 3-minute sessions. Are we frustrated with the school board? Yeah, we are. But we understand that you're part-time, unpaid volunteers and can't possibly grasp every issue. Like any board, you rely on the full-time leader of the organization. 4 years ago, Urbandale School District hired Rosalie Daca as its superintendent. Under her leadership, Urbandale residents have seen the following happen, all much more important than who we play in sports. Record high teacher turnover with teacher benefits that apparently aren't keeping pace with surrounding schools. Record high truancy rates at the middle school and the high school. Declining enrollment within our boundaries with near record low kindergarten enrollment and record high numbers enrolling out of Urbandale. Sexual assault and child abuse lawsuits at the elementary and middle schools. And record high spending here at the district, including all of this leased space, Metro West on 100th Street, along with 6-figure salaries for newly created district positions, all while we struggle to attract and retain teachers. What's the common thread here? Policies and culture that encourage the status quo at the district while covering up and dismissing the concerns of students, parents, residents, and teachers. We need all the good parents and students we can get at Urbandale and can afford to keep doing this. 77% of parents wanted to leave the CIML. By election standards, that's a landslide. But I suspect it would pale in comparison to the percentage of parents, teachers, and residents who want new leadership here. I challenge the board to put out a survey asking if they approve of the superintendent's work these past 4 years. As elected representatives, some of whom will be seeking re-election in 5 months, you should want this information. She does, after all, report to you. Thanks.
Moving on to the consent agenda.
I would move to bring the consent agenda forward.
Young will second.
Young?
Any questions, discussion, clarifications?
I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
We already have a motion, we're good.
Oh, to approve, okay.
So it's a roll
Oh,
call.
sorry, my bad.
Are we ready for the roll call?
We're ready for roll.
Okay. Hauser?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Mead?
Yes.
Mankey?
Yes.
And Ricewag?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And action items, the contract for the UMS boiler.
Hello again. All right, so the first item there is for the UMS boiler replacement. Mike had given you just a brief synopsis there earlier, and just to continue on from when I was at the board last month. We did receive bids. We're replacing 2 of the 3 boilers. And then in addition to that, doing a complete system flush. And then one of the other things, and a water heater replacement. Okay. One of the things that we did during the design process there and kind of evaluating the overall structure of what was going on was, again, those boilers are 20 years old. How we did things 20 years ago, improve, change over time. So we did look at and evaluate a way that we can make those boilers operate a little bit more efficiently. And then hopefully provide some additional comfort to the overall building as a whole. And so that we price that separately. You can do either option, base bid there, or do the bid alternate to enhance that. And so we wanted to give you that choice, that option, being fiscally responsible. So before you, we had two bidders. Excited for that, knowing that we have an aggressive timeline here to get this done before the next heating season. So our schedule has the work being completed by the end of September. That gives us about a 30-day buffer when we know that we'll probably start to need some things, and it's all dependent on equipment availability. We continue to be plagued by just different things at different times in the construction market. So with that, L.A. Fulton and Sons, they have done work with the district before. We worked with them, and I think they'll do that.
I would move to approve this contract for the boiler replacement at middle school.
Williams will second. Kent?
Yes.
Mead?
Yes.
Mankey?
Yes.
And Ricewag?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Hauser?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And next is the DLR contract for work on the boiler.
So again, we recognize the fast-paced nature of what was going on. So we went ahead and proceeded with the work and got everything squared away for the district here. So what you're seeing there is the services for our engineering team to put all that the bidding document together. I will note because of as we were evaluating things, district parent and taxpayer, all those kinds of things. I did have the opportunity to donate some services to the district in looking at that upgrade for that bid alternate. We're not charging you for those services, so to look at that and evaluate the system. So that's our contribution to the district, and we're happy to do so. But that's our contract for the work that we did.
Feel free to make more of those contracts.
I would move to approve the contract for the boiler project.
Okay.
Young will second.
Okay. Young?
Another roll call.
Yep. Mead?
Yes.
Mankey?
Yes.
And Ricewag?
Yes.
Williams? Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thanks,
time.
Eric.
Great
Thanks,
evening.
Eric.
Thanks.
And strategic plan for 25-26.
We're gonna let Denise come up and let her kind of give a summary. She referred to the new strategic plan, so there's a link in there of the process that was used.
So they're gonna look.
All right, Denise Wood, Director of District Leadership and Improvement. I didn't do that before, I apologize. I did attach our process. I'm gonna try to do that when I remember to. I think it's helpful for you all to get to see, like, strategic plan doesn't just magically appear here. Those inputs are gathered throughout the year, and then you can see how we kind of identify those strategic advantages and challenges, move that forward into identifying root causes, and then prioritizing our solutions. I wrote up in the summary, but just big kind of key changes, that switch from pillar conversation to 4 big goals. And we're just making that shift in an attempt to make sure that everybody really knows what it is that we're all about. And so we did do some work with leaders around that idea here in the spring. And then it was fun to see as they worked with their leadership teams here over the last couple of weeks, that shift in their language. It's going to take all of us a little bit of time to move away from talking about the pillar to talking about the goal. But we do think that that emphasis change is going to be helpful. Underneath that, while they are still written as annual goals, we're trying to make it that shift to here's the strategic goal, here's how we're measuring it. And so just little switches in our language. You can see redistribution of a few of those measures across the different areas. And then hopefully you can see the ways that we're taking, like, we had those really great employee results. And so ways that we're building on those strengths that have been identified, like especially around feedback and coaching for our teachers in particular. And then thinking about how that process is working so well there in evaluation, how do we roll some of those practices forward with our classified evaluation, which you're going to hear about here in a few minutes. But thinking then, how does that help in particular that staff survey item around evaluation, where we just haven't been getting movement. We've shifted some of our work around school safety from the family school relationship survey to considering some of the digital citizenship, online safety. Those are some areas that we're hearing a little bit more about from families. So switching to see what it is that we could be doing a little more proactively. So those are kind of the big shifts, and hopefully those lines are fairly clear for you between our data and what we've prioritized for strategic actions. Any questions for us? All right.
That's what we'll entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the strategic plan for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second that.
And Rice White, okay.
Okay, so all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
Ms. Sadler, you're up next. All the nutrition services annual agreements.
Good evening. The first action item I am bringing is just the normal renewal agreements for the upcoming school year for nutrition department. With the new contract for milk and dairy, we went out for bid of the CBC co-op. Urbandale is part of a CBC co-op, which is a co-op for food and produce as well as supplies. And Anderson Erickson were one of the vendors that bid, and based on quality, customer service, as well as pricing, we would like to award them for the upcoming school year, 1-year contract with up to 4-year renewal, just like the rest of the purchasing. The rest of the items are just renewal. We are still within either the 2nd or the 3rd year agreements, so. Any questions on any of the vendors?
We'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the services nutrition annual agreements.
Mankey will second.
Okay, Mankey,
Yes.
Van Ryswijk,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Mead.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Perfect. The second item is the student meal prices for school year 25-26. Looking at food cost and labor cost for the upcoming school year. The meal prices, I believe, will need to increase by 15 cents for breakfast and 10 cents for lunch. Breakfast has not been increased in the last 3 years, so we've held it steady. I thought it was fine for the last couple of years, but just with prices increasing, I think it's time to increase it by 10 cents. With that, based on the savings that we have from the last couple of years, I would like to ask the board for approval in regards to the nutrition department absorbing the cost for reduced price breakfast and lunch for only reduced eligible students for the upcoming school year. Based on the April 14th data, so just pulling those numbers, we had 287 students. Now that number does fluctuate month by month, so I will not be able to give you an exact number, but that was one of the highest numbers that we've had in the month of April. So 287 students, and doing the math, that would be about $36,162 that we would absorb, the nutrition department would absorb. So we would like to give that a try for the upcoming school year. However, I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page that we will have to revisit it in December, just to make sure that we are still in the positive, because we have to be in the positive, and then we'll of course revisit it for the upcoming school year as well.
I'll move to approve it and really appreciate that gesture. That's awesome.
We still will get the
Federal.
reimbursement, the federal reimbursement. It's just the parents will not have to pay for the 30 cents for breakfast or the 40 cents for lunch.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Young will second.
Okay. Van Ryswijk,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Mead,
Yes.
Mankey.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Perfect. And then lastly is the adult meal prices for next school year. The federal government sets the meal prices nationally. However, being at $4.97, I would like to round it up to $5. We cannot round it down. We can keep it as is, or we can round it up. I just figured it's easier for an adult to pay with $5 bill than $4.97.
You don't keep those pennies.
It won't exist.
Yeah. Find them.
Come by.
I would move to approve the adult meal prices for the next school year.
Okay.
Mankey will second.
Okay, we are at Williams,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Mead,
Yes.
Mankey,
Yes.
Van Ryswijk.
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica.
Okay, and the new classified evaluation process.
Lauren DeCraig, Director of HR and Operations.
Kate Johnson, HR Specialist. All right, so we are presenting our new classified evaluation process that we would like approval for. We'd like to start off by just giving some background and rationale for why we started this process. So our current classified evaluation process has been in place for several years now without a review. And then we also have our current class evaluations are based on previously created performance areas. and job-specific employee performance expectations. So looking for more specifications. Last year, obviously, we did the review for the teachers. Wanted to make sure we're providing the same review for our classified employees too. We have had employees request more refined ratings on the summative evaluations. They've also indicated that the performance responsibilities that are listed were not always accurate for the position. Positions have changed obviously in the last few years. So there might have been things on those evaluations that aren't being done anymore, but they're still being rated on those evaluations. For the refined ratings, right now they just have satisfactory and unsatisfactory. We had quite a few employees who also requested maybe something a little higher than satisfactory, just something a little bit more refined ratings for them. We also have had supervisors over the years request additional clarity on the evaluation ratings. We supported that, just having more consistency across the district, making sure for the supervisors it's easy for them to do it on the evaluations as well. And then, like I said, we did the revision of the professional growth handbook last year for our teachers. That provided some really positive ways for our supervisors and employees have been doing more observations and reflections and feedback together. And we wanted to try to provide that with our classified employees as well. So we made a committee to review this process. The committee consisted of about 15 people to review the process. Classified employees were included from each of every building and from a wide range of classifications. We put it out to the district, asked for volunteers, and then if there were classifications that were not represented, we reached out to individual employees to see if they would join us as well. We also had 2 administrators who were part of the team and a teacher as well to help provide some feedback. The committee met 3 times over the years. This is just a brief overview of the meetings. But the first meeting, we just really did a big overview of the current evaluation process. The meeting number 2, in between the 2 meetings, we gathered information from other districts in the metro about what they do for their classified employees. So for the second meeting, we reviewed those processes and then discussed the possible changes for our evaluation process. And then in the third meeting, Lauren and I brought updated processes as drafts and asked for feedback and went through those processes with the committee.
All right, so some aspects of what we're bringing to you today that are updates or changes or improvements. One would be having everybody giving more thought to how they want to grow. That is truly built into our teacher and administrator processes. It hasn't been as built into classified evaluations. So as a way to encourage reflection and the setting of goals, and I think what we're planning to do is to start fairly small and just utilize our new documents to have people think about what might be an area that they want to continue to grow in. And to utilize that and then hopefully provide feedback around that and other things as well. But to have our employees thinking about what professional growth looks like, because it's not just careers that our teachers and administrators have, it's careers for our classified employees too. And honestly, I think this is a really, really good step to think about it in that way as well. We're building in observations while still brief as a way to, number one, have everybody seeing the work. And I know that's happening right now, but building into the system hopefully will be a really good thing. But then also providing some feedback as a part of the digital tool that we're using is hopefully a way that will make it efficient and streamlined, but also giving valuable feedback to our employees who have been craving it. Our teachers craved it, our classified employees really seek good feedback as well because they have a desire to grow. And then performance improvement plan, just building that aspect in. We have used performance improvement plans at different times, but building that in connected to job performance that needs improvement. And really it's designed also to grow, but it might be growing into something where we feel like then there is more proficiency happening, or that the performance has grown to a point where we are happy with where somebody is at, and then continue to grow from there. So performance improvement plan is built into this. We have utilized our actions of excellence, which were worked on and developed years ago, but still are pertinent today, as a great connection, quite honestly, to what makes for a great employee at Urbandale Schools. We also then continue to use the language that was in our previous, especially around the bigger areas. The performance indicators from previous evaluations was also really still pertinent, and we found a way to kind of meld those things together. Within this new rubric, which has, as Kate was alluding to, has more refined categories and 4 instead of 3 categories, but also descriptions about what good work looks like in those areas. And then also a section that gives our supervisors the opportunity to provide job-specific feedback, because there are the nuts and bolts of every job that need to be done well as well. So giving that opportunity within the tool. Our hope, like I said, is to utilize this going forward as a great connection to what we're already now doing with teachers, but in ways that are meaningful for our classified staff. And of course, we'll be looking at it as we go through it, but also at the end of a year when the formal document is produced. One of the other things I wanted to mention is that the rubric includes an area that's states distinguished, like for our teachers, which is really what does high performance look like, not just middle of the road performance, and spelling that out so that for many of our employees who really strive to go to the next level, having that opportunity to see what that looks like and then having those conversations with their direct supervisors could be a very, very beneficial thing as well in terms of our overall employee performance. Just as a reminder that about half of all of our employees are classified employees, so this includes literally hundreds of different employees as their evaluation tool. What questions does anybody have for us about this?
Appreciate your work.
We will entertain a motion then.
I would move to approve the new classified evaluation process.
Hauser will second.
So all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Child curriculum.
Hi, I'm Mary Clark. I'm the pre-K through 12th grade special ed curriculum facilitator.
I'm Melanie Hatch. I'm the Director of Special Education.
I am really excited to talk about dynamic learners this evening. I come from the dynamic learner world, and it was really exciting to work on this this year. And dynamic learners are students within special education that have the most significant learning needs. So we really see this falling under that, ensuring high achievement for all students. As I started in this role last fall, I spent time in classrooms and with teachers, and it was really apparent really early on that our dynamic learners needed to be at the top of the priority list. The curriculum that we've used in that space has been around. I've been in the district, this is my 6th year, and it was around for at least a few years before I joined the district. So it hasn't really been looked at in a while. Our process, I would say, really, I mean, it's something that I had thought about before I was in this position, and certainly the dynamic learner teachers had been thinking about it earlier than May of 2024. But when real work started was at that point. So talking with teachers that teach our dynamic learners, started doing some research, and then we began developing the essential elements, which are the core standards for our students with significant learning disabilities, and created aligned proficiency skills, just like we have in our gen ed settings, and what is used for our gen ed students. So that is those guidelines that help determine what score is earned for each learning requirement, which is based off of the standards. Within our dynamic learner program, those standards come from the essential elements. We attended a virtual summit on Encore from Teach Town. Encore is underneath the Teach Town umbrella. And we included our team members, our dynamic learner teachers were a part of that. We engaged in some professional learning, completed those essential element learning requirements and proficiency scales. I'm proud, our goal was to have 3rd through 12th grade done for the year by the end of the school year, because that's the 3rd through 12th graders take the alternate assessment, but we got K through 12 done, so that was exciting. And then did some training for our dynamic learner teachers on those proficiency skills and learning requirements and how to utilize them to provide scores to really reflect what our dynamic learners are learning. They take their classes pass-fail, and they've never, in the time that I've been in the district, they've never received a score that's attached to a learning requirement. And so it's just always been pass-fail. So it was exciting work to engage in to, again, really create a picture of the student. And, you know, we have many students that maybe I'm a 10th grader and I'm reading at a 1st grade level, but I'm doing math off the charts. We've never really had a way to truly reflect that. So that was exciting. And then we did spend a lot of time researching the alignment of Iowa's essential elements to Encore, which is that curriculum within Teach Town. This was the team of teachers that worked with us, and clearly representative from across the age, all of our grade levels. Our department vision is to help all students achieve at high levels while also increasing educators' sense of fulfillment for their profession. As we looked at the current tool that we've been using with our dynamic learners, we found that we were really lacking in science and social studies. They did not, it's just the current curriculum doesn't provide enough resources to teach to the essential elements, which were required by the state of Iowa to do. And then I think the increasing educators' sense of fulfillment for their profession, I loved getting feedback from our teachers this spring after we piloted it, and the excitement in teachers' voices at being able to actually, you know, I had a teacher say, I feel like I'm actually doing what I've been like supposed to be doing all along, but I haven't had the tools to do. Or I've had to go and search and try and find something that will meet those requirements. And it was so wonderful to just have those tools in my hand. The review of those instructional materials, we evaluated our current materials, identified those areas of concern and the places that we felt we needed improvement. I would add that there was very few resources for science and social studies, the math was very repetitive, was the feedback that we got from our teachers, is that it really just kind of addressed the same skill over and over again, and it didn't really embrace all of that big spectrum of the essential elements for each grade. Evaluated options for improved materials. We looked at some other resources, and to be honest with you, there's not a lot out there. Some other options would have been really piecemealing from a kind of a menu of things, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but one of the things we really appreciated about Encore was the differentiation within the curriculum. So if I have 6th grade social studies in front of me, there's 3 different levels within that 6th grade social studies. So even within our dynamic learner program, we have very varied student needs and abilities. And then we evaluated feedback from our dynamic learner teachers. And we did spend some significant time ensuring that alignment to the essential elements and to our proficiency scales. this kind of sums up the things I already covered. Our current resource is not a full core curriculum, while Encore provides materials that cover math, ELA, science, and social studies, as well as some supplemental interventions for social skills and transition and life skills and language. There are, within our current materials, it's a significant repetition of materials. Encore offers 13 years of non-repeating lesson plans. There are approximately 55 benchmark assessments built into our current tool, and there are 270 benchmark assessments within Encore. And then the current events curriculum that we currently use is a part of the same company. We have to purchase that separately. The current events curriculum is included with Encore. So, and that is that every week, a weekly focus that's based on what's happening within our world.
Can I interrupt?
Please.
So I think our current situation as well is there's a lot of supplementing we have to do. So we've had to purchase other things to supplement because we're just not getting enough with what we are getting through the current program, so.
And then we did a virtual interview with Glenwood. I want to call it Glendale, I don't know why. I'm not from Iowa originally, but we did a virtual interview with Glenwood Community School District. They've been using it for a few years. They started with one teacher, and then over the past few years, it has spread throughout their entire district because the initial teacher enjoyed it so much, and their previous curriculum was the curriculum that we are currently using. And so it was nice to be able to have that conversation with their special ed director about how she just answered so many of the questions that we had. Does it offer 13 unique years? 13 lessons of 13 years of unique lessons. Do you find that it aligns with the Iowa essential elements? Do your teachers feel like they are searching for other things? And the answer to all of those questions were the right kind of answer. It does align. They're not searching for other things. Teachers really enjoy it. It's decreased their workload significantly. So our recommendation for K-12 and 4+ would be Teach Town's Encore. Again, because it provides core instruction in all 4 of those areas. We have transition, 4+ instructional materials are included, social skills, and then they also have extended school year materials that can be utilized for our students that engage in learning over the summer. What have I missed? I think you covered it. Do you have any questions?
Is there any additional cost, like updates annually? I mean, is this just coming as a package and that's it?
So this is a 5-year,
Okay.
5-year quote. And actually, if you break it down, it ends up being about $500 a student, which is, if you think about the amount that we spend for other areas and trying to get our general education core curriculum materials, it was much more than that. So I do think the one thing that might be a reoccurring cost would be the consumables. However, there's an online component. We also have some students that are not going to be able to necessarily interact with those workbooks in a way that, it's intended. And so, they've even told us that we can make copies, and I'm like, and that's, but that would be the one cost that may possibly be there, would be those workbook consumables, but everything else would be included. There is an online component, and that includes that as well. And we have to sign up for so many seats. However, there's not a discount if you reserve. But if you say I need 40 seats, then you pay for 40 seats, whether you need 20 or whether you need 40. So we actually estimated a little bit low, and then we would add individual seats, which is, I think it's a couple $100 per student. We also have some students that may not be able to participate or interact with the online component. But we shot, we estimated low on that, and then we would add additional seats, so we're not paying for seats we don't need.
Sure. And does this extend to the 4+ program?
It does, so there's like additional pieces of the Encore program. So one is transition and life skills types of things for secondary. So transition should be taught throughout high school. So we're working on transition, and then obviously we would be able to use those materials in our 4+ program as well. We have social skills materials that also come along with it. There's also one about language, which would be like for students who are working on building that vocabulary and things, which is more of a SLP type of situation, but oftentimes we share goals with a speech language pathologist and maybe an academic goal, and so teachers need resources to try to increase students' communication. And so it has some of those materials. I can't remember. I feel like there's more than, there's maybe, I don't know about it. Anyway, I'm missing one.
Well, I'm encouraged that you're doing this and have found it and put the work in.
Yep, so our current program has actually been sold to another company, and it just seems like it's sort of falling apart quickly. And we really haven't seen any updates to it. It does have an online component. And like I said, we've just had to supplement so much that we started looking into like what else is out there. Because I do feel like our dynamic learner teachers are constantly like, hey, what about buying this? And what about buying this? And I'm thinking, okay, well, if they're bringing all of this, there's obviously a need. And so Mary started working on it, and we're pretty excited about it. It sounds like we have some pretty close neighbors that are also going to be adopting it this year. So there's also a training component that comes with it. So not only like some sessions with everyone, but also some individualized sessions to work directly with each teacher. And we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dynamic learner teachers within the entire district. So, it's not a ton of teachers, but giving everybody what they need, it's gonna be awesome.
When I asked for feedback, the only not positive feedback I got was, I wish that I had been trained on it. Well, training would be a component. I wish that I had all of the materials. They sent us we had access to the online component, and then a kind of random sampling of hard copies. So I wish I had training. Oh, and I wish I had had more time. So we had 4 weeks with it, and I wish I had more time. I just want to like dig in, and I'm so excited, and I want to like look at all of the different things. And so that was encouraging to me too. The negative feedback wasn't negative feedback. It was all things that would be addressed with, if we purchase and move forward with Encore. That was really encouraging to me.
I wish you guys were more excited about this.
I really struggle to hide my excitement.
I would make a motion to approve the use of the K-12 Encore instructional materials under the 5-year contract.
Williams, second.
All right. We're at Young.
Yes.
Hauser?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Mead?
Yes.
Menke?
Yes.
And Roswag?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Okay, concurrent enrollment courses.
So these were presented in May at the 19th meeting. This is the point that we're asking these to be approved. I don't know, I think Brandon was delayed at that meeting, and at the time there were no questions, but I didn't know if there were any questions now that you might want to ask. This is an annual requirement that we get these approved.
I would move to approve the concurrent enrollment courses.
Young will second.
Okay, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And now we're on to the student parent handbook.
Denise Wood, Director of District Leadership and Improvement. Can I back us up real quick to strategic plan? It's getting close to my bedtime, so things are getting lost. I did want to just mention that we cascade the plan to our building and department plan on a page. They each have a strategic plan that's aligned. And Dr. Daka and I are working on doing a couple of nights, September and October, where we get you all set up with those individuals and do a kind of a round robin. I believe you guys, somebody may have learned about this at a conference or in a board sharing opportunity. So I just wanted you to know that that is going to look a little bit different this year, but I'm pretty excited about it. I think that you'll enjoy getting to interact and understand better what's in each of those individual plans. So now handbook. Again, I attached the process. This is very involved process. You can see that we have opportunities for feedback, revision, and then another round of feedback after some revisions are made. That second round of feedback also involves SIAC, and then final revisions made. As we get board approval, tomorrow the editing and formatting of the English version will begin. The changes will be sent to our district translators, and we do have one that we're going to have to use an external agency for, and then those translations will happen over the next few weeks. Formatting hopefully to be on the website by the time that Karen Acres starts. In the handbook, there's really not a lot of earth-shattering changes. They're pretty boring this year. There are some places where we aren't quite sure, we don't have full guidance on some recently passed legislation. And so there are some adjustments that may need to happen. I think most of those are also going to involve changes to policy. And of course, law always is going to trump policy, and policy is always going to trump the handbook. So I just want to make sure you know that there are some pieces that are a little either under construction, or we made adjustments based on what we interpreted that still might need some adjustment at some point. And if you discover anything, I know that Carissa had caught a place where we still had late start. I think sometimes of, all the different leaders that are inside of that document, sometimes we just get so used to something being there that we don't see it anymore. So if you spot something else like that, make sure that you can just shoot me an email and we'll get that updated. We really are trying, but there are just still a few of those little, and then that formatting piece, not sure why blank pages showed up, but all those kinds of things, send them to us, because there are just some things that some of us don't see.
Any questions? We'll entertain a motion.
Williams will move approval of the 25-26 student parent learning handbook.
Hauser second. Give it to Hauser.
All right. Well, we're back to Hauser.
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Mead? Yes. Menke?
Yes.
Van Ryswijk?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Denise.
Okay, the reconsideration committee for 25-26 school year.
So this was a piece that the board requested that we review annually for membership on this committee, and I know Brandon posted solicitation for people who might be interested in serving on this committee. This year we didn't have to use the committee, thankfully, but we felt like having the committee in place was more proactive, so that it was defined who was gonna make these decisions. He received 26 responses of interested individuals. We took the answers that they provided on why they wanted to be on the committee and blindly sent those to the board, and the board ranked them for us. And the names that you see for community members in here came from those rankings. These are not in any particular order. These are just the top 4 individuals. I just, so you know, I did share with the whole committee that the individuals that were gonna be going to the board would receive a second email that particular day. I think it was Monday that I sent that out. So they are aware that their names are in here, and I did give them an opportunity if they changed their mind and didn't want to participate any longer, but I didn't receive anything back from them. The 3 employees that are recommended in here are appointed by the superintendent, from administration, a teacher librarian, and a licensed employee. So if we receive an objection that the committee needs to hear, then pending this board approval, that would be the group that came to go through that formal process with Brandon and I.
I would move to approve these names. Okay, I'll give it to John.
I'll second it.
It is 8:31.
I'll second it.
And Rice White gets a second. Okay.
Okay, so all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next up is the legislative priorities.
So this is something that you do annually. I tried to include the last 2 legislative sessions for the priorities that the board came to. I also included for you the, what do they call it, the legislative action, the booklet that comes with it. So at this point, platform, thank you. It's close to my bedtime too. The board just needs to determine what the priorities they want for the 2026 season. And then I can work with Rachel. I don't know if you have the link. I can give you the link so that they can be entered, or I can enter them. It's up to you, whatever you guys want to do. This is also something if the board doesn't feel that they're prepared enough. I don't know how much reading everyone had a chance to do, but they are not, we have time. We can move this to July if you would feel more comfortable. But I wanted to get it in early, so we were thinking about it. So if you're ready, we can do it.
I think we knock it out tonight.
I agree.
Okay.
I mean, I think the number 1 should be funding.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, that's what it is every year, but that's why I feel,
Well,
you know.
Nothing else can fall into place without that.
Right.
And the increase this year was $162 per student.
The what?
The increase per student was $162.
We can do a lot with that.
We could have done a lot more with 175.
Yes, we could.
Or 500.
Right, yeah.
How many did you
How
want?
many do we want?
Last year we had 4. Who entered it last year? Jason, was that, did you?
Yes,
Do you remember 4 was the total?
I believe, yeah.
Because we had 5 and we weren't sure if the 4, so, I mean, we can take 5
I think
and.
it was, yeah, I think I was limited to 4.
Okay.
That's my recollection.
Well, I'm going to propose repeating the student mental health.
That would be on my list as well.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry, did you say mental health?
Student mental health.
Okay.
I'm gonna say property taxes. As a landlocked district, I think the ability to control our own financial destiny is rather important.
I was gonna suggest something about local control, and I think ties primarily to that issue.
We know what's coming, property tax reform.
And I think we still push preschool too, because we all know that the research shows that preschool makes a big difference. I think every year we put universal preschool in there, but I think we need every year to put universal preschool in there.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Research shows that's key.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
And I'd really like to see special education funded more fully
Yeah,
for the entire state.
right. And I think that's.
So I don't know if we can tie school funding into property taxes or somehow incorporate all those into a local control initiative. I don't know.
Well, can
Really get
we
into
kind of cheat and say funding / preschool, sped?
Is it a drop-down menu that you're selecting from, or do you
I think
actually
so.
type?
yes, it's a drop down, yeah.
So they're looking at the different.
And unfortunately, new legislature is not a choice.
We have funding, mental health, property taxes, local control, preschool and special ed funding, so however those pull downs will lead to those
I
priorities.
think you can make a judgment on that. You can.
We trust you, whoever does it.
Yeah.
Don't want to be cynical about
I'm
this,
not
but
sure if I have the link, I'll look.
I can send it to you.
If you're not paying attention.
So that is an action item, so somebody will need to make the
You must get a
motion.
lot sent to you a lot of times, is that what you're referring?
so I would propose that our priorities are school funding. I'm just going to list them all. Property tax, early childhood, preschool, mental health, and proper funding for special education
All right.
for the 26
26
legislative session.
So all those in favor, aye?
We need a second.
Oh,
Paul, second.
Commissioner Niceway?
Yep.
now, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Look quick on the draw.
All those in favor, aye?
My second?
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opposed?